Energy gives power. Telecommunications gives connection. Banking gives stability. Big data gives knowledge. Smart city gives new possibilities. Healthcare gives strength. Insurance gives safety. Administration gives support. Defense gives security. IT gives freedom. ASECO. Technology for business, solutions for people.
Hello, everyone. We are back and we are continuing with the program for this day. Next on the line will be a panel discussion titled AI for Good, using technology for mankind benefit. Our panelists are going to be Gojko Galonja, who is technical lead at Finuprise, which is a Denmark AI startup, and Gino Simic, who is product success manager at Infobip, who is our partner of the conference, and also which is listed as the only unicorn company in the Western Balkan region and this part of Europe. So basically, we're going to talk in this panel a little bit more about AI4Good projects, the development of the projects, as well, why they're so important. And today we have a persons who are being involved with development or designing the solutions, the AI4Good solution that we use in Western Balkan. So basically, one of the key messages we would like to say with this panel is that this kind of products are very important, and they can be done even in the, at this place in Croatia, in Slovenia, in Serbia, in Greece, in Bulgaria, Bosnia, and Romania, and all other countries. We are having attendees here present. More invite Gino and Gojko to join me and to start with the panel. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
It is very nice to see you again. We have heard like a lot of times in the previous 10 days, but for the beginning, I would like to both to let's say invite you to introduce yourself in a few sentences to our public. Maybe we can start with Gojko, and after that, Gino.
Thank you for your introduction words. Just a short introduction about myself. I'm Gojko, like Alex already noted. My name is Galonja, for those who are wondering how it's pronounced. I'm technical lead at Finuprise, recently changed my position from Vice President of Engineering to technical lead with aspirations as we go. I'm working in startup as we go. Furthermore, there's aspiration for CDO position. So that's in short about me.
Okay, Gino, can you please?
Sure. And first of all, hello to everyone, and thanks, Alex, again for the introduction and inviting to this session. I'm Gino Simic, working as a product success manager at Infobip. What else can I say? I've been dealing with projects that are related to AI4Good and maybe a wider spectrum for quite some time now with Infobip across not just Western Balkan, but pretty much the whole world. So hoping to share some stories and insights here today.
Okay, Gino, maybe we can continue with you. And I would like to ask you, how would you describe your workplace and what you do in Infobip, and how is Infobip connected to AI?
Well, you can see my workplace around me. I'm
As
just
everyone else.
It's definitely a dynamic, workplace. It's a high growth company which has, ambitious goals and targets always to grow 3x, 10x every year. So that comes with a lot of positive and a lot of, operational challenges. But overall, it's never boring. It's always fun to be working, on global projects, on very interesting new innovative projects, such as some that we'll be talking shortly. But it's also, very rewarding to see that even from Balkan, from Croatia, from small places, some big things can grow and some big companies can emerge, and this is something that's really, motivating for me.
Okay, Gojko, you have recently changed your company and you became a technical lead at Finuprise, which is, like I said, Denmark AI startup. May I ask you to please explain to us what do you do actually, and what does Finuprise do?
Well, I would, on contrary, I've joined the startup. It's yet to emerge to become a big company. So it's good that we have from both perspectives, kind of from enterprise to the startup, two opinions, and to talk about the panel discussion. But Enterprise is about making investments and stock trading impactful, in a way that it's a standard stock exchange kind of app, but there's a catch where you register as a user, you pick a cause or a playlist, for example, clean energy, clean ocean, sustainable energy, art, gender equality, and stuff like that. And let's say you care about clean oceans. When you get to the point where you have all the stocks and all the companies trading and their charts and everything that follows the standard stock trading, then you can see those companies who invested the most in the clean oceans and stuff like that. So, for example, Nike the last 2 years invested 64% of their products they made out of plastic that's recycled from the oceans and things similar to that. So just to make the stock exchange and investing a little bit more impactful. So one unique UI or Gino can make a change in a bigger sense.
Okay, and I would like to also, maybe you already defined the answer, but maybe Gino, I would like to ask you, could you please define, of course, in your own words, what AI4Good means to you? And by that, I don't mean by definition of AI4Good, which is creating next generation technology for a better and fairer world, which I needed to Google, to be honest. When I was starting, I'm like, okay, what is the definition really? But like I said, instead to you personally, what does the AI4Good means?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good question, and I've been thinking about it. But I think for me, what it means is basically demystifying the whole AI space, demystifying this whole buzzwords that we are hearing about. That a lot of people are still concerned about whether this is going to bring a more positive or negative impact onto the world, and how do you even approach it if you're not maybe so deep into the technical aspects. How do you what is it? How do you see it every day and every night? And it's also about creating a positive ecosystem for all people involved, because that's something that Alex, you and I chatted earlier about. For me, what AI4Good means is that there's room for everyone, and I think the most important top point here is that it's not one player who's going to come and dominate the whole space, because it just opens up so many endless possibilities that there's pretty much room for everybody to collaborate and build a better future for all of us.
Okay, Gojko would like maybe to add something to this, or we can move on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. For me, AI4Good is kind of just a category that lets you leverage your technical skills and your expertise in a better way, sort of to help people that actually do need help. Well, I assume later on we're going to talk about the project that I was part of. So to leverage your skills and build something, product that's going to help people in need, visually impaired people, people with actual that have actual issues in the real world, and their lives can be upped by a notch with the products such as AI4Good is.
Okay, with this, I would like maybe this is a great intro for what we're going to talk next, and that is development of AI4Good projects, which I think that's very important to talk about, to understand a little bit more, not only to talk, okay, we are using this for that. And there is no better start to do so is by giving a AI4Good project example for sure. Gino, I would like to ask you, because I have looked a bit more in details and saw a few interesting projects that Infobip has done previously. Of course, one of them is Andrea AI, a chatbot that was used during the Corona pandemic as a messaging and informational system. The second one was Potres.ai as well, which was developed as a messaging and alerting system for the earthquakes, which is also very interesting because I didn't know about that before, and I know that Croatia had a lot of let's say negative experience, to be honest, like in the previous year, not only with Corona but also with earthquakes, and that was like very, let's say, a whole region was watching and trying to help you. But I didn't know about that, and that was totally awesome that I see that you do. But my question is, you're one of the people who was in the development and communication of the Andrea AI. Can you explain us a little bit more about this project and why is this classified as AI4Good?
Sure. I mean, gladly. So, Andrea AI is a project that was a part of the larger scope project, which was basically a collaboration with partners from Facebook and WhatsApp, where at the beginning of this pandemic, nobody knew really what was happening. All of a sudden, everything was closing down. There was, fake news spreading or not official news. Should you wear a mask? Should you not? How do you approach it? Is it transmittable by touch? And all of these kind of things where people are really confused and were looking for answers. So basically what Infobip did, and I was the person leading this project, is we partnered with almost 50 ministries of health globally. And one of them was, obviously the Ministry of Health in Croatia. And that was basically where Andrea was born. And what Andrea is basically a chatbot that was helping people get this accurate and timely information, not only about new cases, but about informations how do you cross the border, are the schools open, what do you do if there was a symptom checker, right? Because people are always calling in the doctor's office or the general hotline and asking questions like, oh my God, I have a fever, or my head hurts, do I have corona? Which was basically a lot of repetitive work, which was taking a lot of time for actually the doctors to do their work, and that was helping patients. So if I can sum it up, the most important part of and why I consider it to be AI4Good is because it was obviously a donation. It was not charged in any way, shape, or form, and it was deployed quickly. That was with the aim of relieving the whole health system from doing repetitive tasks and replying to the users, to the basically people, and helping them, guide them through the situation. Even if the symptom checker was showing that they might be affected, it was done in a way that it's not just the information, hey, you're positive, but it was, okay, no worries, we will take care of it. This is what this is the steps you should follow, reach out the doctor and stuff like that. So overall, I mean, it was pretty amazing to see that I think 70 million plus or even 80 million plus messages were exchanged with all these bots globally. Some of them are, continuing and now into the whole vaccination project, but that's maybe a topic for later or for another time. So it was beneficial for everyone, and it was a donation, obviously. So I think it is safe to say it correlates with the vision of AI4Good.
I have one question. Like, how did you come up with the name?
With Andrea?
Yeah.
It was Andrea Štampar that was inspired, yeah. For those who maybe don't know, it's one of the historical famous Croatian doctors, medicine, one of the founders of the WHO, and there's a big institute in Zagreb in Croatia where pretty much all COVID things related are centralized. So that was the motivation, yeah. We wanted to make it personal. We wanted to have it, a name, a personality, not just be, somewhere where you can get the information, like Ministry of Health Zagreb. It was more of, okay, let's bring it to the people.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, to be honest. It didn't quite catch my attention to ask, but it was very interesting. Thank you, Gojko, for assisting. This is cool information, to be honest. Gojko, I would like to ask you, because in previous conference you have talked a bit more about the project in technical details, but I would like to ask you, you have been working on a project with the goal to help blind and visually disabled people and to help them to live a better life. So basically, can you just explain to us the project, how this project you were working on in your previous company, and why it was so important for you to do something like some project like this, and somebody who has a very strong analytical and technology background and the knowledge?
Yeah. Well, it kind of comes from a personal standpoint and experience, because I've had a rough time back in the days when I was younger, health-wise, and I was almost in a wheelchair because I had really difficult time walking, because there was some like basically doctors thought I had multiple sclerosis and that was really progressive, and on top of that, I was quite overweight, so that wasn't helping at all. So I was on the verge of jumping on a wheelchair and just like living a life on the wheelchair. And I've experienced how it is actually for people that have some sort of difficulty like that, basically visually impaired or just disabled to walk and or feel or whatever is similar to that. So I was kind of inspired, and one day I was chatting with my colleague on the standard morning coffee, and we saw a blind person trying to cross the street, and we both like jumped in and helped him because he was confused, as there was some traffic and there was like some kids yelling around, and he wasn't really sure how to cross the street. And we were kind of think we were like diving deep into deep learning concepts and everything. It was like a couple of years back, trying to experiment a couple of things, and the idea was born at that moment. And we discussed when we continued our coffee, of course, we discussed how we can improve lives of people like that person was, and we came to the answer that we can create a computer vision model that's going to basically detect various obstacles in the street that could, once upon they're detected from the mobile app, then the detection, well, whichever the obstacle is, for example, a dumpster or a parking pole or anything similar to that, once it's detected, then text-to-speech, basically the phone outputs the video, audio, sound, stating that there's an object and which object it is in front of the person.
That is very interesting topic, because like I said, I was very fond when you talked to me, and I know how passionate you were about this project. I don't know if you will continue to work because you changed the company, but I think that this is important because I know that you move the needle and help them a lot. So basically, like this is awesome to hear about this kind of project in Croatia and Bosnia. Like people don't. It can be done. And basically what I wanted to ask you, both of you, maybe Gojko, you can go first. What were the biggest obstacles you have faced while developing these kind of projects, or maybe some other AI4Good project? It can also go well for Gino, maybe not only Andrea, but something else that was developed by Infobip. But Gojko, maybe you can start first.
Well, biggest obstacle is always the data. I mean, we were... Yeah. I mean, what else can I say? That's it. I'm done. I rest my case. I mean, we had like specific obstacles where we couldn't find data set for on the internet, like parking poles. Of course, there's some data, but it's like messy rather than useful. So you could lose like 20% of out of 1,000 pictures or something like that. So we had to go around the city and take pictures and then go change the city, because parking poles and everything, like you probably know, in Bosnia, everything's like not unified, everything's different. Every city has its own like colorings, unique and different containers, like dumpsters, parking poles, even zebras are different. So we went to a couple of cities, tried to collect the data, and once we had satisfying number of data, then we proceeded to actually train the model, and everything from that moment on is kind of downhill. Because it's easier, you don't have to put much gas on it, because you've gathered satisfactory level of data. So yeah, that's basically the biggest difficulty and obstacle.
So it was a good exercise running around and collecting all these pictures.
Yeah, I mean, you had to like run around, walk around or a bicycle or something, because you can't really go and take a picture from a car. It's not a good picture, and then you have to stand still depending which phone you have, and you have to take a picture. But later on, luckily, I had that handshaking stabilizer on the camera, so I was recording 4K, and when I got back home, I was like setting frame by frame, which could be like the most quality one, and then I picked that one, extract it, and I have a picture. But it took me a while to figure that out.
Okay, Gino, maybe if you can also give your impression on, like I said, it can be Andrea, it can be some other project. What do you think were the biggest obstacles you have faced?
Well, other than, it's always collecting data, whether it's for training a certain model, or even if it's not even some complicated AI model behind it. It's adjusting the data, right? Infobip has at least we have a little bit maybe different specter of projects that we are running in, and they're mostly chat-based, right? It's about textual communication through any channel, Viber, WhatsApp, Facebook, Google, whatever you need it. So the key thing here was, and some of the problems were, first, how to adapt the platforms to support. When we're talking about this Andrea and Andreas, all of a sudden from 0 to 70 million in literally a month or two, right? So there was a lot of work, a lot of hours to move to some more scalable services and upgrade and upscale all the infrastructure. But it was also about well, internally, externally, but it was how do you make it user friendly? So for us, that was a big part, because it's one thing to just provide one-way communication, like here's your answer, here's the question, and here's the answer. But it's way different when you approach it like from an website perspective or from an email perspective, and when people are chatting through, let's say, WhatsApp. It's a whole different type of communication. A lot of shorter messages, a lot of emojis, a lot of personal touch. Even if you have to scroll your phone up because the message is too long, it doesn't really sit well with the user. So there was a lot of learnings, until we got it correctly.
Yeah, and
so UX,
that's
UX, I would say on CX.
This is a cool thing, because on the first talk with Bernard from Vienna Liner, he talked about that they are started to work with UX designers, psychologists, as well as a part of data science team. So basically, what you're relating, both of you, basically what you're relating, I can see that is maybe on smaller, on the bigger scales, people can see there is a why the data science and AI is called interdisciplinary, field, because it needs to correlate with the others to get the full exact potential to get. So basically, what you said, I'm totally resonating right now, and I think in the conference we're talking about
that. We're all in the same struggle, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And what you said about the both of you, I think that you just tackled that, but it's a good thing too, because that's the next round of question is about setting project expectation, project management methodology, and of course the thing that we are getting paid for, communication with other human beings. Joking, of course. But Gojko, when we talk about a regular AI project, it may not be easy, but we can come to, let's say, understanding it, at least what are the main goals and KPIs. Maybe we don't love it, but we can go to that point. How is this process working for AI4Good projects?
Yeah. Well, the biggest KPI to start with is to actually kind of do pre-research before we actually dive deep into building something or starting a project. Is something which we did on the project that we did. We gathered all the specification requirements, and I went there to in the what's it called? Basically, an alliance of visually impaired people here in Banja Luka in Bosnia. That's organization on this level of in the state of the whole country, and we kind of presented the idea and asked them for their advice and their opinion, what they think about it. And they were thrilled with it, obviously, and that's the first key performance indicator that something that you're going to build is actually going to be used, and the people that you're building it for are happy to hear that you had such an idea. And from there on, you can gather all other ideas from the people that you're actually building a project for. This is kind of a specific case, but for this project, concretely, that was the best KPI at the beginning, to actually figure out and hear people that are going to use the application, hear their opinion, hear advices, and get their suggestions on what can be improved in our whole idea, our requirements, and how we're going to approach the stuff, and how we're going to start rolling it, building the product. So I guess it's always in general for AI4Good. I guess it's always good to gather all the information that you can before you actually start building something, because you can figure out midway that you've messed something up, or you miscalculated something, or you thought that something would be like you thought it would, but in reality it's not going to be like that, or it may differ from your original idea. So I guess that's the biggest thing to focus on, and then afterwards, obviously, the results come as you develop and train the model and everything that follows that technical perspective.
Okay, Gino, I would like maybe to add something first to the Gojko answer before
Sure.
I continue with your question. So maybe what do you think, how this process of the defining KPI for AI4Good projects you think look like?
What was that question for me?
No, for Gino,
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, it's my fault.
No,
Not you.
I think, I mean, first, I just want to say that Gojko was 100% right. Like, get the stakeholders' early feedback as soon as possible. That's gonna, make a huge difference. How to say KPIs? I think it's all about expectations management. People are maybe new to this technology. They don't, everybody kind of has their own vision of what this project should and could do. So it's very important to also align on the reality of it. What is possible, what isn't possible, what are the timelines possible, and start with the key objectives. Right? It's always about every technology, digital transformation, or every technology project is always led by a business or a top vision, metric or objective, right? It's always, we need to increase something, we need to decrease something, we need to optimize something, and then technology is the answer of how to do it. So I think it's very important to align on those first, and then move into, making the right choices of the technology and the phasing out and the timelines that will support these top objectives, right? Often we tend to, it's because we are passionate about our work. It's very easy to fall in the trap to, start building this amazing thing, which might not be, what the organization is actually looking for. So I would say involve the stakeholders early and be clear about the top objectives, and then, cascade it down to the tech side, and then to individual KPIs and metrics, depending on which project it is.
And basically, that's a good intro for, like I said, the question I would like to ask you, that because besides setting the goals, we also need to monitor that goal, expectation, and evaluation as well. Not only feedback, but to do evaluation in the end of the project to see how we did that. Basically, I would like to ask you, how much did your domain knowledge from Infobip help you in managing the COVID projects? And maybe if you could just give us a brief, let's say, pros and differences and similarities between regular Infobip project and AI4Good project, because it's also related to the messaging systems, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it did help. I mean, I got involved in it very early, right? I was relatively new then in the company, so the domain knowledge specifically helped, but it was more about, okay, we need to figure this out and we need to figure it quick. So it was a lot of adoption, which I would say in Infobip case is the company motto, or the, it's just how it works here. First make it and then you make it better, right? So it definitely helped. What I would say, it was communication and open communication, right? You cannot go wrong by over communicating, neither with the clients or internal stakeholders, project leads, management, engineering, and the key difference between, like, let's say, these pro bono or AI4Good projects and the regular, let's say, enterprise for profit projects is that it's more, everybody's more open and willing to share when, everybody's going through the same vision, and that is to help someone, right? It's a lot of less back and forth. People are more keen to open up, to, be clear about their objectives, be clear about, what's bothering them. Sometimes in the enterprise world, you really have to dig that out and read between the lines, because everybody has maybe, they don't want to overshare information because they're maybe afraid that they're going to lose some leverage later on in negotiations. But overall, I think it's just about, being clear about we are here together to solve whatever the case is, whether this is a COVID or many others like with UNICEF. When you're very clear on the objective, and that objective can be measured in human lives or whatever it is, people just get closer together. So I would say that is the key difference.
Of course, and thank you. Yeah, this is, like you said, communication. And basically, this is a good, like I said, what I wanted to ask first, Gojko, and after that, you. I don't know if you heard about the saying that we are not paid our salary to develop something, but rather to communicate with people, and especially our closest partners. But being more serious, everyone knows that communication is the key for every successful project. Without communication, in the crucial times and crucial things need to be done, we will fail for sure. That's one thing for certain. My question to both of you, and first for Gojko, is can you describe to us how and what communication looks like in these projects, having in mind a variety of partners that includes government, NGO, etc. What is the same and what is different to regular tech projects?
I think nothing, actually, because
really,
yeah, in my experience, it's pretty much the same, in my opinion, because in my experience, actually, because I mean, there could be more or less people involved in the whole communication process and the chain, depending on how big of a project is and how you scale up and all. But regarding, I mean, it also depends what kind of a thing you're building. Like, for example, I guess Andrea project has some correlations with the government and stuff like that, because obviously you want to boost your usage, and if government sees that they can actually benefit and use Andrea and that kind of software, they're gonna promote it, and then hence you need the communication with the government. But I think it's, at the end, we're using AI, data science, and to leverage and boost regular software engineering, regular software products. So at the end, we're all using applications and software solutions. So it just boils down to the software development project at the end for the end users, of course. So depending how you're gonna serve the application to the wider audiences and the public, it also depends how you're gonna communicate it. Also, like, it has a couple of things that you have to consider. Like I said, when it comes to communication, who is involved, what kind of category does the product boil down to? Well, I mean, it's AI4Good, but in this case, but do you make an application for visually impaired? Do you make an application for COVID-19 and stuff like that? So it depends kind of of category who you're building it for and what's the audience going to be like. So that kind of also pulls down who is going to be involved in the whole process of building the product. In our case, application and visually impaired, we involved the Alliance and Association Organization of Visually Impaired People from Bosnia with our company, and a couple more partners at the side, just as advisory bodies. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't differ, from my own experience, I'm saying, it doesn't differ too much from the standard software development cycle.
This is very interesting to hear, because like this for me it's very encouraging, basically, because people are sometimes thinking that communication can be much harder, and they are let's say they are saying, okay, I'm not sure that I would like to go into this kind of thing. But Gino, what I'd like to ask you is, what are your lessons learned in communication with this range of partners? Because you had the government also included in developing Andrea AI.
Yeah, I mean, I have to somehow disagree or just have a different experience than Gojko. I think it's, from my own experience, it's different in terms of that. Usually in an enterprise, the KPIs, responsibility, organizational complexity is much clearer. You pretty much know who is in charge for what. The KPIs are pretty much always the same. It's profit driven or whatever. it's easier to detect the right persons to speak with. And sometimes when you're dealing with the governments and a lot of partners involved, because I have to say, I forgot to edit before, like Andrea was not just Infobip's project, there were other members of the Crow AI organization included as well. So there's a lot of over communicating. There isn't always necessarily a single person responsible, so it's always important to kind of grab people and make sure that you're covered from all angles, so that the message doesn't really the message resonates with everyone, and then you can have a consensus. And from my experience, it's about the maturity of like digital, let's say, maturity of the organization, right? And unfortunately, the reality here in the Balkans is that it's still, for the government, this is pretty new stuff, and you have to be more direct and very pragmatical in your approach on how do you communicate what it is actually, how it's going to be viewed, and what are they getting out of it, and how will they personally maybe benefit, or how they can use this to make a better case for themselves. So I'd say it's always about who is your audience, and I see a difference between working with maybe governments and enterprises. It's easier, I would say, working with enterprises in a way.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe I went overboard, but
no, it's okay. It's okay, because like having a different opinion doesn't. It's basically adding to the discussion. It's not the game, because the different experience can be then after that we can talk about why was the different experience, not right now. But like I said, this is the interesting part to see the difference between like with the big company when they are doing the AI4Good and smaller companies, because they are different in operating. So basically, maybe that was one of the things. Like maybe the smaller, let's say, medium and smaller companies have a different approach in developing their projects, which is more similar basically to the AI4Good than a big corporation that have a technology maybe a bit more developed already for this kind of project. This is interesting, like conclusion from like what I'm concluding in my head.
Could be.
And basically, what I wanted to for the end to start with, just a smaller, let's say, emphasis on why are AI4Good projects so important. So basically, in this last part, I would like my first question, basically for both of you, and maybe Gino, you can go first. In the next 3 or 5 years, let's say, what kind of challenge would you like to see that has been resolved through the AI4Good project?
That's a tough one.
And not the cure for cancer, because yesterday they were talking about how they are creating a cure for cancer using peptides and AI, basically, and I was totally shocked. And they're doing that at the University of Rijeka, and basically, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that personally, AI4Good, I see the biggest maybe impact in medicine, telemedicine. Not necessarily just finding cures for cancer, but I think there's so many like chronic diseases which people are obliged to regularly check in with their doctors, and it's getting harder to do that, especially now with all the lockdowns, restrictions, fears. I think there's a huge part for AI4Goods to play there, and add this level of let's say personal touch without actually having the personal touch. So I think that's something that like a pocket doctor, which can help you guide through your day-to-day stuff if you are unfortunately suffering from a disease that requires you to speak to your doctor regularly. But also, like I just want to compliment Gojko's project before. Like I think it's amazing to see helping with day-to-day stuff, with people who are less fortunate or have an accident, that we take some things for granted which are really hard for them, like crossing the street, and I really like to see that, and just basically improving the day-to-day lives of millions of people who are less fortunate perhaps than we are. So
okay, Gojko, maybe if you can also give your impression and maybe try to be a different answer than Gino did.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, Gojko.
no, I mean, it's totally okay. I mean, all three of us share the same opinion. But just to add to that, I think there's, and that's proven, like with this whole coronavirus pandemics, lockdowns, and we're forced to be in our own four walls and stuff like that. I think AI4Good could also kind of lean towards helping people and building, like making solutions and products and applications that are actually going to be helpful for people who have psychological issues. And I think that's a huge part for the future, and like more and more people are starting to have anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and everything that's basically similar to those what I just noted. And I think, from my personal perspective and opinion, I think that's going to be the most beneficial kind of solution for the future. Just something that's going to be focused on and built that's going to help people on psychological level. Either be it like some sort of advisory app or a solution, or let it be some sort of like just like an OP, a chat, a bot that's going to be as good, so good that it's going to be helpful to people that are depressed. That can actually, in any type of day, they can like jump into this application or product or solution, depending how you build it, and just talk with the machine, and that machine will be able to figure out what might be the cause of the misery, sadness, grief of the person, or anxiety, and be able to ease it up, if not help completely. If not temporary, if not permanently, just temporarily, because of course nothing will replace the real shrink or a doctor that helps people with such issues, but that can be an assistant to a lot of issues that people are dealing with at the moment.
This is very interesting. I think that Infobip can do something on this, because they already have developed a lot of things regarding chatting.
I'm hinting.
Yeah. Just Alex, if I may, would take 1 minute. I mean, Gojko, I think this is a really, really good point. And one of the underlooked aspects of what you're saying is it's unfortunately in a lot of countries, especially, in maybe our region, it's really a taboo, to talk about these things. People are not open. And I think this is the bridge that AI4Good projects will help, start by talking with your bot, with your phone. And then, it's easier because you're in private, nobody needs to know it, maybe. And if it gets you to that spot where you feel more comfortable talking to even your family or friends, I think that's a massive step. So really good. Thanks for bringing this point up. I think it's very important.
So basically, if you end up like between some kind of cooperation between Gojko and Infobip on this project, this will be more than enough for the next 10 conference for myself. Because like I said, Gojko, I think mental health, basically, I didn't want you to go into this thing, but I think that mental health and mental cleanness is something that people don't overcome very easily. Our body is not built to live for 70, 80, 90 years. Like brains are not. There is people don't understand. There are many like a smaller case of schizophrenia, for example, in people, because that's normal to develop. And people don't understand that, like, without having no fear, basically, it's a kind of schizophrenia as well. Like, there is a lot of things I like to read about it, because I think it's very important to understand these kind of topics, and especially, like you said, in pandemic area. So basically, if this something concludes from this one, this can be more than enough, like I said, for for the next 3 or 4 conferences. I think that for sure Infobip can develop something like this if they find interesting in. But this is a good intro for my next question, or the final one, and I would like to ask you to be briefly, so you can have a conclusion. In general, AI4Good projects are not necessarily oriented toward profit making. Instead, they are value driven. But still, we do need money for the project development itself. So basically, Gojko, what is your stand on how we could finance this kind of project? Do you think that the best solution is to government and intergovernmental organizations such as European Union can fund these kind of projects? Do you think this can be a solution? And do you have some opinion about it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the funds and pools of such unions and organizations can also like help in this case for good products and projects. Obviously, if a company decides to make their own kind of product, then they're obviously gonna self-finance themselves and pull the funds from their own pocket to build something. Obviously, they can include some shareholders and gather some investments at the sides. But I don't think there's unless someone sees and finds themselves who has enough capital to invest in such project, unless that person sees the actual struggle that the project's gonna solve, then apart from that, then there's a thin chance that someone's actually just gonna invest because AI4Good takes, I mean, any project takes time, any product to be built, to be used by a wide variety of people takes time. And if it doesn't promise profit at first, then it can be kind of hard to gather money, unless it's like you mentioned, and like I said, organization like different kind of organizations or unions like European Union and funds like that. But I think it's rather difficult to gather money if it doesn't promise profit at first.
And Gino, do you think that is possible maybe to find some kind of mixture between profit and value driven in this kind of project? If no, why not? If yes, how so?
I definitely think yes, because I don't think, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad if it's for profit. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that you guys have in the AI4Good that can be applied, in some for-profit perhaps cases, which could help, fund the vision and fund the whole project of the non-profit sector. So I think it's definitely worth diversifying a little bit, because if you're not sustainable, then it's really hard to long-term serve and offer these things for for greater good.
Okay, and just one sentence if for the end, because we are already running out of time. We will start with Gino and after that Gojko. What would be the message for people who like to do AI4Good projects? And if you would like to add something for the end in 1 or 2 sentences, please, both of you.
Yeah, I think it just starts, just start small, start researching and join or start inquiring about organizations such as AI4Good or similar local associations. And that's it. It doesn't have to be a huge jump from day one. A small step is better than, waiting for that huge leap, which probably never comes. So get it started, and that's the most important thing.
Okay, Gojko?
Yeah, just start with it. I mean, go for it. If you're passionate about building something, then that's great. It means that you're actually going to strive and be consistent with it, and just start building. Like, start the engine. Gather as much information in the beginning as you can. Ask left and right, forward and backward, pull sleeves, and just ask people what they think and their opinion, and see if that people give you. I mean, obviously you have to direct the questions to qualified people and ask for their opinion. And if they give you thumbs up, good. If they don't, good. Just keep going with your idea. Just keep building. And yeah, I mean, there's always a chance that you might build something new, something good, and something beneficial. But I don't think that if you're building something that's in category of AI4Good, that's not going to be beneficial. So any kind of step in that direction is always appreciated and good. So yeah, just go for it.
Okay, I would like personally to thank both of you for taking your time to take part in this panel. We are for our attendees, we are going to have a short commercial break, and after that we are coming with the next panel, which is going to be Job Revolution with AI, and we are going to have 2 awesome panelists and close friends of the conference, Tomislav Križan from Atomic Intelligence and Dejan Božić from SmartCat. Gino, Gojko, thank you once again.
Thank you, Alex.